Hey everybody, welcome to the Green Room, DisrupTV. I'm here again, but this time Vala's on the road. Awesome. I'm here with Vala Afshar, my co-founder, and of course, he's co-moderating the speech. And of course, we've got Elle, our producer. And of course, I'm here in Austin, Texas. I'm in a different city every week. But we've got amazing guests, and we're going to introduce them in reverse order of appearance. And so, Marty, tell us where you're coming in from real quickly. What are you talking about today?
I'm coming from Denver, and I'm talking about my recent book published by Harvard Business Review Press. The book is Blindspotting.
I know. I think I'm being held back, but you're going to tell me more, so I'm not too worried about that. So, Ryan, Amy, Ryan, where are you coming in from?
Salt Lake City, Utah.
Very, very cool. Amy, and yourself?
Coming in from Orange County, California.
You two have a new book. What are you guys talking about? And I think you launched it like this week.
We've just recently launched it, and it's we're very excited to talk about that, as well as our new acquisition of Copy.ai and our plans for the future of go-to-market tech. So thank you for having us.
Sounds great. In a world without co-pilots, we're going to live better. All right. All right. Turn it back to you, Elle. What are we going to talk about? And I guess you can do the count. So.
All right. 3, 2, 1.
Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us on DisrupTV. My name is Vala Afshar. I'm the Chief Evangelist at Salesforce and your co-host for the next hour. We welcome you to follow us on X. Send us your questions live at DisrupTV Show, and we'll do our best to answer them during the next hour. It's my pleasure to introduce my co-host, Ray Wang. He's the CEO and founder of Constellation Research. He's always on the road. He's the best-selling author of Everybody Wants to Rule the World. I see Ray on TV. It feels like every day, but it seems like it's weekly. Bloomberg, CNBC, Fox Business. In my humble opinion, he's one of the top futurists to follow on X at RWANG0. Welcome, Mr. Wang, to DisrupTV.
Hey, thanks a lot. I'm Vala Afshar, the Chief Digital Evangelist for Salesforce. He's also the author of multiple books, from Boundless to Autonomous. His new book, you have to check it out. It is a top seller on Amazon. But more importantly, executives around the world, they pay attention to every one of his inspirational, insightful tweets. And more importantly, if he's not leading events or speaking on business TV, he's out there posting insightful analyses on ZDNet. So, but it's not about us. It's about our amazing guests. And we have amazing authors this week. Who do you have to kick it off?
This is what I love about the show. We get best-selling authors to come and share their wisdom with us. Today, we have Amy Osmond Cook, Ryan Westwood, and their co-author, who's not with us, Vala Afshar, co-authors of the RevOps Advantage, How to Maximize Your Revenue and Your Team's Potential. The book just came out September of this year, so brand new book. Amy Cook, PhD, is a marketing, revenue, operations, and communications executive, recognized for her innovative strategies in technology and healthcare marketing. Amy's the co-founder and chief marketing officer of Fullcast and has a proven track record helping high-growth companies move from Series A through acquisition. Amy founded and led Stage Marketing as CEO for 15 years, building it into a leading full-funnel marketing firm before it was acquired by Amplio in 2024. Amy was recognized by Utah Business Magazine as the 2024 Business Leader of the Year. Welcome, Amy, to DisrupTV.
Thank you so much. That was a very kind introduction.
I had to cut it short. You've done a lot. You're going to have to do it again with your co-author. Ryan Westwood is a tech entrepreneur who has successfully exited 3 companies. Ryan co-founded Simplist, which he grew from 0 to more than 400 million. He's at it again. Ryan is currently the CEO of Fullcast, who recently raised $35 million in seed round. Congratulations. Had some pretty big announcements at my company's little conference this week. We'll talk about that maybe. Ryan has served as a public and private company board director. He's been both Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year and Utah Business CEO of the Year. Ray, we've got some highly accomplished folks on our show. No surprise. Thank you, Ryan, for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Great to have you.
Well, we're happy to have you on this show, and we're going to ask you a question that both Vala and I definitely know about, is really about RevOps. But just to set the stage, let's talk about RevOps. It's something that's been picking up steam. We have chief revenue officers, chief growth officers. Our guy Martin Schneider covers this space very diligently. But why do you call it the company's pit crew? I'm here for F1, so it's a perfect analogy.
It is a perfect analogy. Well, you think about it. Can a driver, the driver is the star, right? But can a company work without a RevOps team? And can a driver work without a pit crew? The answer is a resounding no. And the difference between winning and losing really comes down to that pit crew. So we believe that revenue operations is the secret sauce to businesses. You put them in a strategic leadership position and they will help your business fly. The results are in that companies that have a dedicated RevOps type of function are roughly 30% better off. They grow faster and they do better and they're more resilient.
Ryan, I spent a week here in San Francisco at our annual conference, and your team was here. And, all you heard morning, afternoon, and night, not surprisingly to us, was the impact of machine learning and predictive, generative, agentic, even physical waves of AI, and the combinatorial effect of this incredible amount of innovation in language processing, smart robotics, computer visioning, all these derivative sciences under the AI umbrella. When you think of the technology, specifically AI, your thoughts about how it will reshape, and turbocharge the function of RevOps?
I still am on the side that so much of this is accomplished first by the human element going properly. So at first, you've got to have alignment in an organization. And that's why I'm so big on RevOps, is you've got this third party that's not a silo, that covers sales, marketing, product, all these different elements, gets everybody aligned. And when you have that, and you're paying attention to data, then you can leverage those incredible technologies. But when you've got a company culture that's not committed to transparency, that's not accessing and looking at the data, and you don't have those elements, those human elements first, then I think a lot of these technologies are not going to have the same impact. But when you have alignment, and when you have a leadership team who truly is transparent with the organization, now you unlock that technology and incredible things can happen in an organization. And that's where I think automating processes with AI is an incredible opportunity that we want to be at the forefront of, that can take out a lot of the day-to-day tasks and responsibilities that are probably more menial and less important.
You and I just met a few minutes ago, and you recapped my previous book to a T. So silo busting, I think the most harmful element in terms of even individual career, teams, companies, ecosystems are silos. And the fact that you summarized your mission and the function of RevOps to silo bust and bring radical transparency and knowledge sharing and healthy flow in business in order to create positive outcomes. Awesome. Really, you and I are 100% aligned. Go ahead, Ray.
What we're seeing is RevOps is both a function and a philosophy. And with the world of agentic, and if you move into agentic enterprise, one of the interesting things is you're collapsing decision trees, right? And so the question really is not where do you automate, but when and where do you insert a human? And this is the biggest problem as organizations are trying to figure out how to actually get through the automation efforts. They're forgetting about when and where to insert a human. And so what does it take for an organization to adopt RevOps as both a mindset and a way to get to that level of decision automation and decision intelligence companies are really asking for, but not knowing how to ask?
people, processes, systems, and technology and data is really like those 4 principles are all so interrelated and so integrated. And like Ryan, we see people first, right? And anytime you get a really good RevOps leader in your company, they're going to leverage first the people. And then they're going to talk about the process. And they're going to talk about the technology with a foundation that's a very data-driven, data-centric foundation. So we actually talk about that in the book a little bit, and we put together what we call our full cast factor framework that has a lot of those principles that you're talking about there, which include like the forecasting and planning, but the alignment of departments. And for us, it's not just the narrowing of departments, because like sometimes people call things RevOps when it's really just like really tightly coupled marketing and sales and customer success and product, but they really still are separate silos. Maybe they're more narrow. What we're talking about is something that's different, right? We're talking about centralization of data and a technology focus and a real focus on optimization with a strong revenue impact. I just went through the factor framework just now.
Love that. Love that. Love that. Let me pick 2 personas in terms of your potential readers, the CEO and the leader of RevOps. When you're writing this book and having 3 co-authors, and by the way, Vala is super accomplished, so you've got like 1 + 1 + 1 = 10 with you 3. What are you hoping is the main takeaway for the CEO that's reading your book? And also, same question when it's the RevOps leader. Is it a common takeaway for both, or there's unique points of view and call to action that you want these 2 personas to walk away after reading your book?
I would say there's both. There's some things that are common for all of them and some specific to the persona.
Sure.
But if I'm a CEO, this is why I'm reading the book. One, if I'm going to have a RevOps function and I've got to scale and grow quickly, I have to set the tone. You can, as a CEO, you can cut the legs out from underneath a scalable organization and a RevOps organization by not committing to collaboration and transparency. So if that RevOps person can't get access to all the leaders across the board and have the data they need and be able to collaborate with them and then transparently share data with the whole organization, they can't do their job.
No.
So many CEOs are not committed enough to transparency in the organization. They're hoarding information in an executive meeting and not sharing it with the greater organization. We have a meeting weekly we call the open management meeting. We took our executive meeting and said, we're now crowdsourcing. Everybody in the organization, come look, come see. And what that does is it opens up the flow of collaboration and data. So if CEOs aren't offering that up, these RevOps leaders, they can work really, really hard. What happens is they become people that are getting data for the CEO or managing tasks for the CRO. That's not strategic. That's not RevOps. You've got to open it up so that they can share that data with everyone and make critical decisions that move the business forward. Here's the last thing I'll say. We talk about RevOps, and a lot of times we talk about the sales and the marketing and all of that kind of front end. But here's the reality. If that all isn't cohesive, it destroys the customer experience. It goes end to end throughout the organization. And so what I see so often is there's a break between some of those organizations, sales or marketing or business development, whatever it is. And I've seen consultants one after another come in and try to fix the customer experience, and it never works.
Sure.
Because that cohesion on the front end is not there.
Yeah, I'll give you firsthand. Before I joined Salesforce, I was Chief Customer Officer, and the CEO of my company asked me to attend RevOps meetings because I had insights in terms of the tonality and sentiment of our largest customers, especially if they had open cases. So, when we assign probability to our forecast, having a services point of view in terms of, the Net Promoter Score, CSAT, total lifetime value, and potential retention issues with the customer helps shape the narrative and how we discussed, next best actions. I also am reminded that this isn't a narrative around small companies or medium-sized companies. When you hear Jensen, CEO of NVIDIA, explain that he doesn't have one-on-one meetings ever. He only speaks to his entire leadership team And he does that in order to remove silos and make sure that the message isn't diluted as it's passed from one leader to another. So the largest market cap company on earth has a CEO that agrees with your sentiment and your thesis in terms of crowdsourcing and having this radical transparency when it comes to understanding the health and trajectory of your company's revenue. Ray, go ahead. Sorry, I'm just, I could talk about this topic
it's
forever.
So exciting. No, I love it. And like you can see us all passionate. Totally.
There's no passion there, Vala. I don't know, man. I don't think you get excited about this. I get excited about
It's
revenue.
an important function. And I'm telling you, I don't think I've met successful double-digit compound annual growth rate companies, including my own company, that doesn't place a premium in terms of building world-class RevOps. It just
when we think about RevOps, right?
Yeah.
It's about getting to that sustainable revenue engine. And that's not an easy thing to get to. You guys have the factor methodology, gets you to that point. But the question is, how do you keep it sustaining? Because at some point, right, it's so much coordination. You're fighting all the different departments, right? Everybody's trying to claim credit. Nobody wants to claim credit for blame or failure, right? It's chaotic, right? So what is
so
the glue
emotional.
that pulls it together? So
It's so emotional. That's actually one of the reasons that I was so passionate about joining Fullcast with Ryan, because I've been a marketing leader for my whole career, and the emotional people toll that it takes, the workplace culture toll that it takes on people not being aligned, sales and marketing fighting together, customer success and product not aligned. It is just absolutely draining and wearing on us. In the book, Ryan does an amazing job talking through like how a CEO can best leverage RevOps team strategically, back to your other point. And what I'm so passionate about is as part of my PhD, I did a lot of organizational theory. My degree is in organizational communication. And so one thing that became very, very apparent to me as we were studying RevOps is it is not just a function to get people to work together. What we had in the past with the Industrial Revolution and bureaucracy at the time was the best model for organization. It would give us the most predictable revenue. It would calm things down. And since the digital transformation, that is not true anymore. Bureaucracy is the wrong model. And so who are the people who are heralding not just working together, not just building a good business, but actually changing business theory altogether? It's a RevOps perspective. And to me, that is absolutely fascinating. And I think that it's not a coincidence that when this great go-to-market reset is upon us, revenue ops is right at the center.
Love that. I think it was Albert Einstein who said nothing happens until something moves.
Yeah.
A strong world-class RevOps organization, in my experience, in my opinion, helps data move, because when data moves, it can lead to information in the right hands could lead to insights and knowledge, ultimately institutional wisdom, and that's the only way you can have positive impact. I also noticed world-class RevOps organizations eventually mature from descriptive use of analytics, describing the past, to diagnostic use of analytics. Why did this thing happen? Because all the data we have is from the past. And then when you get really good at describing why things happen, the business expects you to forecast what's going to happen this quarter, next year. So predictive use of analytics. And then when you're really great, because I can predict the lottery number for tomorrow, unless I play the numbers, it doesn't matter. So the ultimate end game is prescriptive use of analytics, where you can prescribe what the marketing team, commerce team, service team, sales team should do at the moment to ensure we hit our promises. Can you talk to us about the importance of data, especially in this agentic or AI revolution? And Ryan talked about people, culture, process before we get into tech, but the importance of data, because maturing in terms of how you use analytics is, I think, a critical, important factor in terms of world-class RevOps.
You know, when I talk to RevOps leaders, and I've talked to hundreds over the last couple of years, 0 have told me that they love the data in their CRM.
Oh, come on. I thought more loved entering the data manually in their CRM than just the data in their CRM.
Data hygiene is a major issue, and data enrichment and staying on top of it. And it's a great point. And it's actually, I think, one of the great challenges that needs to be solved with technology is staying on top of and managing that data, because more and more we're making decisions with it. But if we don't have accurate or clean data, it becomes difficult to make those decisions, and we could come to conclusions that can hurt us.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Which is, Ryan, do you want to say that the reason for our most recent acquisition is a data play, right?
Yes. Talk to us about it.
All right, guys, we just announced at Dreamforce, Vala, you and I were at that very small conference that your company put on, right? And Ryan was there as well. While we were there, we had an offsite party that we called the Great Go-to-Market Reset, and we announced the acquisition of Copy.ai. And we are absolutely thrilled because, Ryan and I have been building an SPM platform to, like the very best, right? We're the Ferrari of SPM platforms. But unless we have an agentic layer right now that is able to really utilize data in a very agile way and in a generative way, like you guys are talking about prescriptively, it's not going to serve us well in the future. And so that's why we're so excited about the marriage of the sales performance management platform with the AI first go-to-market layer that has data at the center.
Congratulations. That's a super exciting announcement and absolutely adds a whole set of capabilities that makes the solution even more robust. And thank you for choosing our little conference to have the big announcement. That's terrific. I'm so sad that we didn't bump into each other in person.
I know. I can't believe we did it on the street. I mean, it's so small, right?
Yeah, it's with our 50,000 of our closest friends. Anyway, congratulations. Go ahead, Ray.
No, I was going to say it's really important, right? We're seeing the digital transformation journey and the AI journey come together, right? And at the end of it, it's really about data, where you abstract your data to where you're getting all that information and insight, what you're taking with the process and being able to automate the collection and the usage of that information and getting to an outcome that you're trying to achieve. And organizations have a lot of misconceptions about RevOps, especially from executives or investors who are new to the concept. What are those misconceptions and what do you do to demystify that?
That's a great question. I'll say just a little bit and then leave it to Ryan to tie it up in a bow. But one of the, I like to be a practitioner alongside of an executive at Fullcast, and I'm working as a marketing revenue operations specialist for a large enterprise company. And so I know firsthand how difficult it can be to put in a legacy and a RevOps person in a legacy enterprise system and say, go to work. First of all, we had to define what revenue operations was. We had to define what it was and what it wasn't. It took me 6 months to get into cadences where I just got off one this morning where we have finance, sales, the executive director, and operations all together talking about our revenue goals and our plans. And to me, that was a pretty cool milestone where I'm like, yes, we're all doing it together finally. But just even the definition of what revenue operations is and how it should work is a new concept to many, especially more, legacy enterprises that have done business the old way for a long time.
Or if you didn't take a post-sale approach first, right? I'm
That's
trying to
true.
understand what that would look like. A lot of companies didn't have that in place. So
That's right.
What do you think, Ryan? What are some misconceptions on your end?
I think people miss the fact that revenue operations is at the beginning of the process, and that when you commit to that collaboration, the transparency, and the alignment for CEOs out there, your customers will be happier, retention will be better, the bottom line margins will be better, and growth will occur. To me, this is more of a framework for creating a great organization. And I've seen it at all levels, being a part of public, private companies, scaling businesses. And I can tell you, this is the ingredients to building and scaling great companies.
What should be the North Star for RevOps? Some would say forecast accuracy should be the North Star. But I'm curious, when you said you've spoken to hundreds, thousands of RevOps leaders, if there was a word cloud, what's the biggest word that would pop up if you asked, what's the priority of your RevOps team? What are the one or two or three things? And certainly in my company, again, I was intimately involved with RevOps because as Chief Customer Officer running CRM, we had the most mature abilities with our CRM. So we did graduate from descriptive all the way to prescriptive. And we went way beyond predictive. And that science and discipline migrated into our sales function, starting in RevOps. And it helped us with our forecast accuracy, but it also helped us predict what we needed to do in order to activate our executive sponsors and every touch point with the customer. The marriage experience had to be better than the courtship experience. So RevOps teams can really enable that to be true, because obviously the game really begins after the sale is done. But your thoughts in terms of what should be the North Star when you're building a world-class RevOps function?
I mean, first off, I would say to do it, there has to be a great partnership with the CEO. The CEO's got to be committed to the function, or they can really hurt your ability. I've met some really talented RevOps leaders who have just not been given the opportunity because they're not supported by the board and the CEO. But ultimately, where you see the function thrive is if you're able to create new products successfully and scale them. And if you're able to see bottom and top line growth on the organization, you know that everything's clicking. At the end of the day, those are the two KPIs that every business needs to track and understand. And the market cap of companies grow. I mean, we could go through some other KPIs, but really the truth is the bottom line's impacted, the top line's impacted, and the market cap should be impacted when you nail it.
How many RevOps leaders report directly to CEOs?
I'm seeing it increase quite a bit. I'll tell you statistically, it was CROs were the dominant person and what I'm seeing is that is slipping. COOs, CFOs, and CEOs are all trying to take that function. And I believe it's because they're realizing how strategic it is. And they're realizing they're not siloed. They're working in all the business units and they're strategic to the growth of the business. So yeah, CEOs are picking up. COOs and CFOs and CROs are losing some of the market share, so to speak, of having these RevOps leaders report to them.
Yeah, we're definitely seeing that in our research as well. Martin Schneider, who tracks that, definitely has been talking about that shift. But the good news is RevOps is a team sport. Right, everybody is using it, and you can see that as a strategic asset. We start seeing that in playbooks and PE firms now, especially as new CEOs come into play. So definitely we're going to see this there. But if you have not seen this, you haven't touched it, you don't know what it is, check out Amy Osmond, Ryan Westwood, of course, Vala Afshar, in terms of co-authors of the RevOps Advantage, how to measure your revenue team's potential. So thanks a lot for being here on the show. And more importantly, come back soon. So
congratulations.
Thanks for having us. Really appreciate it.
Cheers. Yeah, super important function. Super important function. It's pit crew, it's discipline, it's structure, it's transparency, and accountability.
I gotta get the factor.
Absolutely. Okay, so this is the cleanup hitter spot. We are in a baseball playoff season right now where we invite a guest to come and hit a grand slam, and we have an exceptional author, entrepreneur, and thought leader joining us, Marty Dubin, author of Blindspotting: How to See What's Holding You Back as a Leader. Blindspotting is a new book, came out July of this year. Martin is a clinical psychologist, serial entrepreneur, business coach, and advisor to C-suite executives and Silicon Valley entrepreneurs. Marty has founded several companies, including multi-million-dollar healthcare company, where he also served as a CEO. So we have a CEO author. As a former partner in talent firm RHR International, Marty has worked directly with hundreds of C-suite senior executives from Fortune 500 companies to Silicon Valley venture capital firms and their portfolio companies. Marty built a company of over 250 employees, ultimately driving its sales to Fortune 50 health insurer Anthem BCBS, Blue Cross Blue Shield. Marty launched the third act of his career, bringing his psychological training and business experience to coaching space. His experience as an entrepreneur garnered consultation contracts with portfolio companies from, these are small companies that you may have heard of, Anderson, Horowitz, and Sequoia venture capital firms. Welcome, Marty, to DisrupTV.
Thank you. Looking forward to the conversation, guys.
Thank you, sir.
Marty, thanks for being here. And I think this is a very important book, especially as teams get smaller, leaders have more power, and more importantly, they have a lot more impact. And so these blind spots get in people's way. Why did you write the book? What was the inspiration? Was it like a client experience? Was it a trend that you started seeing, or maybe just an idea or concept that you pulled together from your head?
Yeah. Well, first off, I started writing just because I'd had an unusual career and tried to figure out what did I know and what did I still curious about and what didn't I know. And that was during COVID when we still couldn't go outside for a while. And then after a while, I realized, oh my God, this is a book. I should get serious. But bottom line, it's because as a psychotherapist, I had science precedes, description, categorization, explanation, prediction, control. And as a psychotherapist, I had some of that. I had a diagnostic statistical manual. Somebody came in my office, what's the problem? Phobia, schizophrenia, depression. And then there are different treatment methodologies that work with all that. Nothing like that existed when I was a coach. You're talking to a bunch of smart people, and certainly there's a lot to talk about, and everybody wants to get better. So they can identify something they want to work on. But I never really felt, did I have the science behind me? Am I really working on the right thing? And 5 different people could tell me 5 different things to work on with that person. And they'd all be right. So this book really was the genesis of coming up with a categorization, a taxonomy of blind spots, where to look for problems that hold leaders back, and then building a system about answering the question of what can we really change. I ask people often, are you the same person you were 20 years ago, or are you different? Most people will say they're different, but when you ask their friends, they say, not so much. So really, like, which is it? And how do you, what can change, and how do you energize that change? So that's the kind of the what's behind the book.
That's awesome. I've known Ray for 15 years, and he keeps getting smarter. So at least I can vouch for Ray changing. Marty, I'm sure if I asked 10 people to define blind spots, I'll potentially get 10 different answers. Maybe not all wrong, but now that we have a world-leading authority on the topic, what is a blind spot? How do you define it?
Yeah, well, it's what we're not aware of. When people would ask,
is it lack of knowledge when you say not
aware?
No.
This isn't about knowledge. This is about who you are as a person.
Okay. Self-awareness or lack of
self-awareness. As a leader, your tool is yourself. You've got all those skills and knowledge, and you keep growing in your skills and knowledge, but they're all overlaid on who you are. You and I could read the same book on how to lead a team, and we do it differently, even if we took away the same 5 lessons. So this is about who you are as a person, and how aware are you of how you show up.
Now, some of this is you call a perception gap, right? And where does this perception gap start with? Because people always think they're very aware, right? Whether it's identity or motive or traits or I don't know, you a couple other things like that in your list, right? But why do people just lack that self-awareness? Is it just not the training? Is it they haven't been mentioned before, or they just don't care?
Yeah, I think there's two aspects to it. One is all behavioral characteristics, personality are built on a normal curve. So some people really are better, and some people really, are down at the tail and the other end, and really aren't that self-aware. But there's interesting research. Dunning-Kruger have done a lot of research on self-awareness, and we all tend things that we really like, characteristics, traits we really like we really tend to score ourselves way higher. The most fun statistic they've got is measuring sense of humor. And people score themselves up to 50 points higher on sense of humor than they really are at. So that's that perception gap. On attractive characteristics, we all say, oh, we got them all. And maybe not really.
Fair enough.
Can you share with us a time in and you've had an illustrious career, you've had multiple chapters in your career. Can you share with us a moment where you realized you had a significant blind spot yourself?
Yeah.
And how that came about and how you dealt with it? Yeah,
the recognition came much later. So
that's true for all of us, I promise.
Exactly. Yeah. So the 2, I talk about 6 areas in the book to look for blind spots, and 2 of them are identity and traits. And so, as you mentioned in my intro, I was a psychotherapist first, seeing patients in the office for a decade or more, and then I got into building this healthcare business. And we managed the mental health care for large insurance companies, and we bid on the contract based on their past history. And we had a contract that we'd been growing great and doing well. We had a contract that we found we were losing money on month after month, and it could have been existential for the company. And realized that the insurance company had given us bad data to bid on, inadvertently, but that had happened. And looking back on that, I thought, well, at the time I thought, well, it was their problem, their fault. It became our problem. We needed to work it out. But looking back, it was like, wait a minute, I was a CEO. I signed the contract. Why did I sign a bad contract that had bad data? And looking back, I think I had what I call an identity blind spot. I was the CEO of our company, but my identity still was as a psychologist. I was a psychologist with a company. And, if the company didn't go well, I could always go back to my psychology practice. I wasn't a business person fully in full identity who happened to have psychological knowledge. And that sounds subtle, but it really isn't, because it really means what I paid attention to, where my energy was devoted, what I filtered in and filtered out. And I think because I didn't kind of grieve my loss of my previous psychology identity and say, hey guys, right now I'm a business leader, I'm no longer a psychologist, even though I trained for that so many years, I didn't fully embrace it. And then the second, real quickly, the second blind spot was my approach to solving it. Many of your listeners may know about the big five theory of personality, 5 characteristics that don't really change much. And one of them is accommodation on one end and contentiousness on the other. I'm very much on the accommodation end. And I just, we had a problem. I'll just go talk to the insurance company, our customer, and say, hey guys, we need to renegotiate rates. And, the answer, of course, was, well, talk to us next July, in 9 months. And my partner said, no, we've got to sue them. That's the only way we're going to get to the table. And I was like, oh my God, no. And in my accommodation attempt, I gave away too much leverage, quite frankly, in our negotiation. And we did have to sue them, and that was the right answer. And I learned right there that my default trait of being accommodating wasn't serving me in that moment, even though it served me most of the time. You got to learn when to be a wartime CEO and when to be a peacetime CEO.
Thank you for sharing the personal stories and it clearly not only being accommodating, but your first chapter of career helping fix problems, I suspect you felt as a CEO, even if it's wrong data, wrong contract, you could fix it over time and you could find a path and find a solution. But thank you for sharing. Really, really important. And you said there were 6 type of blind spots. You mentioned 2. Can you quickly talk about the other 4?
Sure. Traits and identity. And then the other 4 are behavior, which everything shows up in our behavior. So at the end of the day, behavior is where all the change happens, and some happens in identity. The ones that I think are much harder to change are the traits, emotions, intellect, and motive. Motive is the engine in the system. It's what drives our behavior.
Wow. Benevolence, when you say motive, is it your intentionality?
Your intentionality. Just very simply, one organizational psychologist from Harvard, David McClellan, talked about 3 core motives in business: affiliation, power, and achievement. And we can all think of what's our set point on each one of those 3. And then, are you over-indexing on those particular, if you're high on achievement, you just got to get shit done and it's all for the results. It's not to get a pat on the back. When you're under stress, you're not paying attention maybe to affiliation needs of your team and even of yourself, and you're just all gung-ho on achievement, and you're going to overdo that and probably get result pushback from it, versus if you were thinking in a more balanced kind of way about, how should I be showing up right now?
Affiliation, power, achievement.
Those 3. And then we all have tons of other individual personal motives on top of those 3, but those 3 are always present.
Yeah, that's a huge point. And when you think about it, CEOs are stuck in that decision-making process all the time. And the question is, you said there are 5 things CEOs can do. What can they do, and how do they shape their teams in this approach?
This question, I found when I would ask CEOs this, I would get of that, deer in the headlights stare, which you rarely get from a CEO. The question is, what can only the CEO do? This isn't about what are you good at, or what's on your agenda. It's in that box, in that role. And this is true of other roles. If there's a box on a chart, that box needs to do something. So the 5 things I think only the CEO owns. Clearly, the CEO selects their team. And if they haven't, if they just took whoever, they moved into the job and they took whoever's there, then they didn't really exercise that only they can do that. The CEO at the end of the day owns culture. A lot of other people are involved, HR and others, but CEOs are in a fishbowl. Their behavior is the culture of the company. And if they don't ask themselves each week, like, what did I do to promote the culture that I want to see? Then they're not being self-aware of their role in the culture. CEOs clearly, obviously, set strategy along with board and others, but they own it, and they also own the priorities. If they're not on top of what are our key priorities, you get scope creep, you get all those other problems. And finally, the CEOs have certain key relationships. Some people only want to talk to the CEO. The CEO needs to own certain relationships and make sure they're not delegated out to other people.
Thank you.
That's are they in any particular order? Does owning the culture more important than strategy, relationship?
No, they, it's just that, the CEO does a lot of other things in addition to those 5. The point really is just, every Friday, just check, go through that list and make sure you really are checking off every one of those. I mean, did you create a team that's based on knowing who you are, who complements you, what's the right org design for who you are as a leader at this particular time? And you should be always thinking about that. Do I really have the right, senior team around me, as well as those other things that I mentioned?
Marty, when you're in front of a CEO or an executive and you're coaching them, and Andreessen Horowitz, Sequoia, I mean, you're obviously, you're in circles that are defining innovation and growth and how quickly can you identify someone's blind spots when you're with them? You're an expert. Is it minutes? Instantly?
No, the problem with talking to only the person is they're not the best recorder of who they are, right? Because
everyone else
awareness gap. So it involves that 360, talking to everybody around them, and
do you do that before you meet with them or after? Or
usually there's a kind of in between. I usually meet with them first and get a quick meeting, get a sense, and then do that, and then come back and sit down with them. But then after that, and this is about, coaching comes from sports. And if you think about elite athletes, they get more, the more elite you are, the more coaching you get. And what is coaching? It's just about small tweaks, to get that extra edge, in your performance, because you're already an elite athlete. And that's how I look at coaching with CEOs. This is about that extra 5% of usually your default personality that works 95% doesn't work with certain people or in certain situations. And it's getting that awareness and then making those small behavioral changes. Maybe if you're extroverted all the time and you own the room, you need to know when are those times to actually be kind of naive and a bit, introverted and not talk. And so just having that strategic sense and discipline about how you show up.
And what's the initial reaction from most of these highly accomplished business leaders when you reveal to them a blind spot that could be damaging? Are they angry? Are they receptive? Are they challenge you back and forth? How much of a tug of war before they sit back and go, yeah, Marty's right. This is really an issue I need to address?
Well, the best is not Marty's right, but Marty uncovered something that I knew already was there, and he just really brought it out.
Unlocked.
Made me not ignore it anymore.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's great.
So, you talk about that point around identity, and I think you're headed in that direction, identity, because self-awareness is important, right? In one of your chapters, talk about the different types of identity. Like what drives that, and how does that change your ability to see your blind spots, or even get to a point where you realize you have those blind spots?
Yeah, we're all pattern recognizing organisms, and there's so much to pay attention to. We have to filter in and filter out. And so our identity becomes a way we filter. It's, we think about who we are, and that's what we pay attention to. I don't know if you guys are parents or not, but before you were a parent, yeah, you didn't have that identity, right? And then you became a parent, and that probably became one of your top identities, and you're paying attention to diaper commercials and all sorts of other things you never looked at before. So I've
tuned those out now. Now they're 21 and 17.
Yeah, good.
I don't even imagine living in that era.
Now you're different.
I miss it. I miss that.
But so your identity, as my example with my that identity blind spot I had, your identity and your role need to be really well aligned. I mean, you guys are interesting. I mean, you guys wear multiple hats. And I think as just hearing about you, and I imagine the challenge is sometimes it's when you're in a particular role and being able to realize that you need to actually change who you are a little bit, because it's different than how you are in another role, and your identity is a little bit of a shift. And you need to be that aware so that you want your identity and your role to be very well aligned. When people get promoted, often they still hold on to their previous role. And they just don't make that full adjustment to what the new role is, and that psychological adjustment to it.
You're absolutely right. Like Vala is like an author one day, then he's like this keynote speaker, larger than life. Then we see him on TV, right? And then he's there like teaching someone, coaching someone, and then he's just like, it's his son's dad, right?
Yeah.
And that context switching is huge. So.
But I tell you what, that context switching is why I struggle with imposter syndrome. I don't know. Often I'm in a room, and if you could hear my thoughts, I'm asking myself, like, what am I doing here? Like the person across from me is far more accomplished, running multi-billion-dollar companies, and they're asking me for advice. And I think it's because when I uncover the blind spots I've had, and I continuously identify blind spots, that keeps fueling my imposter syndrome. And again, I don't know if they're tied together, but I know that you think you know a lot until you learn a little. I'm afraid of how much I don't know about AI and trends and business and leadership principles. And I know I was a shitty manager when I was young, because I left graduate school with a very, very tough advisor. So I walked into the business world like with a Navy SEAL mentality, and I expected my team to have that same rigidity, rigor. Forget about you're a parent, you have kids. I work 12 hours. I expect you to work 12. And so when I reflect back on, of course, I would spot bonus the folks and think that could have monetary compensation increases to justify my demanding demeanor and expectations. Anyway, so my question is, at what stage in your career are you most likely to suffer from blind spots? I think I continue to struggle and with it. So
I think that's beautiful. I think you're doing the right thing, because you are being self-aware. You're being self-critical, hopefully not in a way that paralyzes you. It doesn't sound like it does. It's just you want to get better all the time, and you do realize how much you don't know, and that's true for all of us. That I have a little 2x2, a 4-square box of what you know what you don't know. You don't know what you should know. And the biggest one is you don't know what you don't know. And, you don't want to be surprised by that. And so you are constantly vigilant. And I don't consider that imposter syndrome. Because imposter syndrome often causes you to kind of become paralyzed and not function at your best. I think it's driving you in a very positive way to be vulnerable, for you to say, hey, I don't know everything, which allows that other person also to be that way. And you can have a much more honest conversation that way. Nobody has to get on their soapbox, and it allows you to constantly get, sharpen your sword, get better and better and better. And to me, that we never close our blind spots. We can't be fully aware, but you're always having an attitude of, I want to keep closing it as much as I can.
Marty, where have you been all my life?
There you go. I know. Just put that on a recording when you need it.
I am going to ferociously go through your book, and thank you for elevating my thinking on this topic, because I'm on a pursuit of eliminating what I've been labeling as imposter syndrome, but perhaps it's a compass that's keeping me
grounded,
maintaining the beginner's mindset that I think it's harder to maintain as you get older. When you mentioned young children, you recognize they're free of prejudice, they're unquenchable thirst for knowledge, they're curious, they're not afraid of mistakes, and you get older, it's that rigidity sets in, and it's just harder to maintain that beginner's mindset. So that's. Sorry, Ray, I'm going on and on. Go ahead. I know you have questions.
No. The session pays for itself. This is great.
Yeah. Now you know why this is my favorite hour of the week. Marty just like refocus. When your imagination is out of focus, you can't really achieve as much. And Marty kind of focused my thinking a bit more with that last comment.
We spent so much time talking about blind spots, but we didn't talk about the great leadership on the other end. Paint a picture of someone that went through that, unlocked their blind spots, and got to the point where visibly, like people internally could say, "Oh my God, the leader just completely changed." Right? Something clicked in them. Someone had a vision. That kind of effect.
Yeah, and first off, use the word transformation, and that is, I want to ban that word from professional development. Sorry, because it sets such a high bar, and I've never transformed anybody, nor could I, nor should I, nor do you want to be transformed, right? I mean, it's those small changes. But to answer your question, so I was working with a CEO of an entrepreneur founder, and he was being described by his team as humble and arrogant. Now you think, like, how can that be true? And this is just an idea of how complex we all are. And he thought of himself as humble. And if you first met him, that's definitely the way he would come across. Very engaging and warm and curious and very open. But he at the end of the day, he was the CEO. He felt he had all that responsibility on his shoulders, super smart in school and all of that. And so at some level, he kind of thought he could come up with the best answer. And when he would meet with his team and they were trying to solve a problem, he was very open, asking questions. But then he was figuring out, okay, I figured it all out. And at the time when he had the answer, then he was very dismissive to people. Okay, I think we're done. And he'd get up and walk out. And so the change for him was recognizing when he came across as arrogant. And for him, it was the trigger of when he stopped asking questions, when he wasn't curious anymore. That's when he could turn it off. And the simple change was to recognize when he was stopping asking questions. And at that moment to say to the team, hey, I think I'm close to an answer, but maybe let's talk about it next Tuesday. The door's open. Let's keep it open for a little while. And recognizing that he didn't want to come across as arrogant, he was motivated to make that small behavior change that had a huge impact on how the team felt.
When I got out of my Gulfstream and talked to my Harvard buddy.
There you go.
I love that. I think most people perceive me as humble until they get to know me, and then they realize there's definitely an element of arrogance. And I love what you just said, because I think it was John Wooden, famous basketball coach, who said, "Go fast, but don't hurry." I tend to find, smart, high-achieving, hardworking people can very quickly come to a conclusion. And then if they're in a room and they don't feel that the folks in the room burn the same level of calories and apply the same level of rigor and move from learning through analogy to learning by first principles, you tend to be less patient. I don't want to ask a barber whether I need a haircut or not. So you're asking for feedback and you kind of have a sense of their point of view. Anyway, I love the fact. Slow down a bit, ask questions, reflect, and have that a methodical approach to balancing.
At the end of the day, the CEO may come up with a good answer, but everything is done by the team.
That's right.
The team, if he just comes up with the answer and then turns everybody off, he didn't do his job as the CEO.
I 100% agree. And I tell you, when you're in that room with the CEO, you have that sense of belonging because the CEO invited you in that room. But sense of belonging doesn't equate to sense of mattering. Yeah. And if you keep going to that room and you leave and your ideas are not heard, they're not implemented, over time, you're like, my work doesn't matter. And when you lose that person at that point, they can never reach their full potential because they don't feel like their work matters. You're the expert in this. I'm just kind of thinking out loud. These are personally when I was quiet in a room and nobody cared about what I had to say, you start planting the seeds. Does my work matter? My last question to you, what do you want a reader to walk away from reading Blindspotting? I mean, is there one Is there, obviously you took the time and effort to write a book, and it's not easy writing a book, at least not for me. What's the hope that you have for your readers?
It is back to that self-awareness. It's back to igniting that sense of self-awareness and realizing that no matter all the skills and knowledge you have as a leader, it all gets expressed through you. You are the tool. And the more strategic you are with how you show up, the more control you have. And I don't mean control in terms of ratcheting down. You can ratchet up as well. But the more ability you have to use yourself as the tool. I mean, you look at the best leaders, and they're present in all of who they are, emotionally, intellectually, interpersonally. And the more skilled you are at that, that's going to increase your leadership. And so the self-awareness and the curiosity, and back to that, it's just small changes can have a big effect.
Marty, I've often heard coaches say you can't teach speed. It's so, and I thought perhaps soft skills like self-awareness are super hard to teach, but it can be taught. I mean, you're here to tell us that with the right science and right discipline and rigor and self-awareness, no pun, you can become more self-aware. You can become more
and it's how other people experience you. So you maybe didn't get faster, but you made yourself appear faster. That person probably was still arrogant in the background, but he was now behaving in a way that didn't appear arrogant, and that was all the difference.
That's excellent. Thank you. That was great. There you
go. Be quick, don't hurry, and more. So, Marty Dubin, author of Blindspots, how to see what's holding you back as a leader, and I think it's really important. This is one of those books everyone should be getting. Should be gifting to folks, and definitely check it out on Amazon. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Marty, thank you for expanding our minds. Thank you so much.
Loved it.
Cheers. Thank you. Man, I wish I met Marty earlier in my career. Including Amy and Ryan. I could have, I played a key role in making sure RevOps function in my prior companies were strong. But I absolutely recognize blind spots. I constantly identify blind spots. I don't know. How about you, Ray? You as a CEO, you feel like you own the culture? You feel like you own the strategy and talent?
I don't think I own anything. And this is the interesting thing. It's a great point, right? We were doing some tapings at Dreamforce, and we had 5 analysts get up there. And the people doing the recordings were like, everybody on your team is different. And I'm like, yeah, that's kind of the idea. The point was
diversity is a strength. Diversity is a strength.
Yes and no. A constellation of stars.
Yeah.
But the approach to this problem were 6 different ways to doing the video, and we all have our different style. But the good news is our lower thirds look the same. Our sizzle reel looks the same. Our, the way the graphics and thing, and that pulls it together. Sure. And you kind of need that consistency to give people comfort. But at the same time, you got to give people that genuine authenticity, right, in the analyst. And I think we have the right balance. It's just we've got to got to take the approach.
But having said that, there's no wrong way, but there is a good, better, best. And hopefully the CEO is the one that can recognize the difference between good and better and best, and then somehow build consensus so they can get closer to the right than the left. But yeah, it's I can't even imagine doing what you do, given the fact that you are the leader of a bunch of really smart men and women.
Very smart, very smart, very witty, and all very different approaches to being an analyst.
For those of you watching, we were talking about leading a team. This team is Constellation Research, and we have the CEO of Constellation Research here with us as the co-host for the last 10 years. Next week, this team is going to celebrate their 15-year anniversary. 15 years of Constellation Research. It's a very tight-knit community of about 300 budget-owning C-suite disruptors. They're going to convene at Half Moon Bay for a week, and we're sharing radical transparency, sharing best practices, talking about leadership, markets, innovation, and the future. And Ray, could you tell us a little bit, maybe give us a 1-minute, your thoughts about next week, and congratulations on your 15th year of Constellation Connect Enterprise. Go check out Constellation Research, go to events, check Constellation Connect Enterprise. You can see all the speakers, all the luminaries, all the agenda is public and available. And many of us are going to be streaming this on X and LinkedIn next week. Go ahead, Ray.
You know, when you have an amazing group of clients, you get to do crazy things. And every year we convene them in different points. And this is our flagship event. And what we have is a conversation on the first day, really about the impact of technologies. AI, of course, dominates, but we're going to talk about quantum. We're going to talk about defense tech, space tech, dual energy technologies. And yes, MR/AR is still back. We have an amazing panel towards the end, but then we cap off the day with Vala's book, Autonomous. So we're going to have a chance to kind of connect with him on that. And then, of course, day 2 is about business processes and really best practices in the industry. We're going to go deep on some of these. And then in the evening, we have our Supernova Awards. It's our gala awards for the Oscars of digital transformation. More importantly, they come home with a 20-pound crystal, and we all get to celebrate the latest business transformation effort. And then day 3 is a half-day leadership day. We open up to Silicon Valley. But this year, if you look at the topics, they are so crazy. I mean, it's talking about anything from vibe coding to how to serve on boards, to what product teams are going to look like, to how the PEVC model has changed. And of course, we get a lot of fun in between. And of course, we recognize our Business Transformation 150 on the first day. So we bring them all together so that they get a chance to kind of connect, meet everybody, and join the tribe. So this is pretty much it. This is how we bring everyone together, convene. And of course, you've been there, what, 13 out of 15 years, 14 out of 15 years?
I've been there, a double-digit number, and every night ends with s'mores at a fire pit across from the Pacific Ocean at the Ritz at Half Moon Bay. So
full bar.
The setting isn't too bad. So I hope some of the folks that watch, and I know many that watch, will be there next week. I'm looking forward to it. As a result of Constellation Connect, in this powerful week we're going to have next week, where our minds are going to expand beyond anything we could imagine, we're not going to have a show next Friday. Frankly, Ray and I are going to be fried by next Thursday.
Well, first reinforce, then CC.
That was next week is a selfish. We need a week off.
Hi guys, happy Halloween.
yeah. But we will come back the following Friday in 2 weeks from now, and we have Scott Anthony, a Thinkers 50 incredible thought leader, author of Epic Disruptions, 11 Innovations that Shape Our Modern World. Scott is brilliant. And Muriel Wilkins, author of Leadership Unblocked, Break Through the Selfish and Limit Your Potential. But break through the beliefs that limit your potential. So we'll have Muriel. It's going to be a great show. Thank you for tuning in.
Boston, Halloween. So maybe I'll hang out with you, do the show live side by side, and then go home. Who knows?
We could be handing out candy. And at my house, we hand out big
I'll
bars.
be dressed as you, man. I'll dress up as Autonomous.
If it's Friday, it's DisrupTV. Thank you for watching. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Bye, everyone.